The war for Velcara Prime was supposed to be quick. It was a fortress world, shielded by centuries of engineering, guarded by the most advanced defense grid in the galaxy, and supported by the elite of the United Galactic Council's combined military. And yet, within a week, it became a slaughterhouse. The enemy, known only as the Zarn Dominion, didn't negotiate, didn't pause, didn't retreat. They didn't use ships like any known species. They sent biomechanical constructs, built from nanosteel and raw data, tearing into cities and strongholds like they were paper. They moved as one, adjusted instantly, and adapted faster than the UGC's greatest minds could analyze them. The Varnari tried mindshield pulses, ineffective. The Quoll flooded the grid with psychic disruption, ignored. The Lithari deployed their strategic orbital lances, recalculated and redirected within hours. The Zarn weren't just winning. They were learning. Commander Rallos of the Lithari sat in the council chamber 3 days after the fall of Sector Theta 9. His voice was tight, his crest dulled. "We sent in precision," he said. "We sent in perfection. And we lost perfection." There were no arguments. By day 12, Velcara's skies were black with static clouds. Communications splintered. The Zarn spread something they called the silence, a signal that blocked any thought-based or frequency-based transmission. Entire battalions were swallowed whole, isolated, then erased. The ground beneath command centers liquefied. Mechs rebelled mid-stride. Entire squadrons vanished between updates. The UGC's commanders began whispering of retreat, a word never once attached to Velcara Prime. On day 14, Grand Strategist Ontan of the Varnari called for a psychological offensive. "Disrupt their logic with fear," she said. "Make them see their failure." She initiated the mind wave, thousands of alien operatives projecting terror directly into the quantum fabric around the planet. The Zarn absorbed it. An hour later they reversed it. Dozens of council officers lost consciousness. Some simply didn't wake up. The council fell silent again. By day 16, the inner sanctum of Velcara was under siege. 5 defensive rings had fallen. The 6th was failing. The Zarn adapted every time the UGC evolved. Firepower, stealth, electronic warfare, nothing held for more than a cycle. They didn't conquer in the traditional sense. They consumed. Velcara was becoming a simulation, every defense, every countermeasure, catalogued and neutralized. A quiet phrase began circulating among junior officers. It started in a debrief room, then leaked into mess halls and secured channels. Just 4 words. No official orders. No authorization. "That's enough." The humans. There was pushback, of course. Humans were unrefined. Loud. Crude. They didn't fit within the UGC's pristine military doctrine. Their weapons were primitive, their biology weak. Their minds, illogical, prone to emotion, chaotic. They weren't even part of most high-clearance operations. Humans were support units. Foot soldiers. Cannon fodder. But they had one trait no other species possessed. They didn't follow patterns. They broke them. Strategist Onten raised the concern in a classified session. "We do not understand how humans operate under stress. They defy modeling." "Exactly," said Commander Rallos. It wasn't an official order. There was no broadcast, no ceremony. Just a single encrypted packet sent to Earth's outer orbit base, requesting a unit that had never been needed before. One whose designation was barely spoken out loud. A task force designed not for defense, nor for diplomacy, but for collapse. Velcara had fallen as far as it could. All simulations projected complete planetary loss within 24 cycles. All known countermeasures had failed. All remaining UGC plans were irrelevant. That was the final consensus among the council. Not spoken. Just understood. "That's enough. Send in the humans." They arrived without ceremony. No formation. No salute. Just the low rumble of atmospheric entry, and a landing that shook half the base out of rhythm. The UGC's elite watched from behind reinforced glass as the humans disembarked, tall, armored, faceless. No insignia. No banners. Their dropship bore no markings, only scorched plating and crude reinforcement welds. It looked like a transport cobbled together in a scrapyard and somehow still flying. Commander Threx had reviewed their file a dozen times on the way to the hangar. Black Echo, it said. A unit with no rank structure, no command hierarchy, no central AI. No public records past their inception. The summary included only 3 words under operational notes: deniable, disposable, uncontrollable. One of them walked straight toward him. Helmeted. Silent. No introduction. Just a slight nod before turning to observe the base perimeter. The others fanned out without instruction, weapons slung loose, scanning everything. Threx noted the movement, fluid, predatory. Not trained precision. Instinct. He led the humans to the debrief chamber, expecting at least questions, resistance, confusion. Instead, silence. He outlined the current failure state, the Zarn's adaptation rate, and the hopelessness of existing strategies. No reaction. Until one of them leaned forward. "What's off limits?" Threx blinked. "We require strategic containment. Infrastructure, local bioforms." "Copy." The voice was mechanical through the modulator. "You'll lose infrastructure." Another spoke. "What's the civvy count?" "Under 400,000 in the final ring." "Why?" "We'll try not to hit them." Threx hesitated. Try. That was the qualifier. He filed it silently. The humans requested nothing from the armory. They refused drone support. They declined access to battle AI. When offered schematics of the terrain, one muttered, "We'll see it when we get there." No coordination brief. No mission tree. No central uplink. When pressed about communications, their lead gestured to a belt device. "Short range. Human only. We'll manage." Threx watched them spar during downtime. No elegance, no pattern. Brutal efficiency. Every move ended with a kill strike. Every sparring session finished in seconds. They didn't talk tactics. They tested each other's limits like animals learning territory. Later in the mess, he observed them laughing. Not forced camaraderie, genuine amusement. One recounted losing a limb in a training op. The others laughed harder. One mind reattaching it with duct tape. It disturbed the Quol ambassador, who noted in a private log, * they make light of trauma. There is something deeply wrong with them, *. Threx disagreed. They didn't make light of trauma. They wielded it. During a weapons check, a technician asked why their rifles had no targeting assist. A human replied, "If you need a scope, you're too far away." Another asked why their armor had no reactive plating. "If you get hit, you're already late." They treated war like an old habit. Casual. Unimpressed. Not reckless, * comfortable, *. One of the alien strategists remarked. "They don't fear death." But that wasn't it. They didn't seek death. They just refused to let it dictate tempo. Threx reviewed their mission planning again. It wasn't a plan, it was a list of variables. No objectives. Just loose contingencies, expected failures, and gaps to be exploited. They embraced the unknown. It wasn't strategy. It was entropy. On the eve of deployment, Threx stood beside their lead operator at the launch pad. He watched the unit board, silent and unreadable. The operator turned, paused, and said only, "Once we drop, stop tracking us. You'll just get nervous." Then they vanished into the night sky. Threx opened a final transmission to the Council. "We've tried precision. We've tried control. We've tried perfection. The enemy adapted. The humans won't give it time to adapt. This is not war as we know it. It's something else. Something older." He paused. "That's enough. We've sent in the humans." The first sign something had changed came when the Zarn forward units went silent, not destroyed, not overwhelmed, just gone. No explosion signatures, no residual heat, no digital trace. 10 sentry hubs offline in under an hour. The AI attempted reroute protocols. they failed. Black Echo didn't strike like soldiers. They didn't advance. They infiltrated. Without orders, without support. Zarn drones discovered their own command relay nodes sabotaged with makeshift traps, chemically unstable, non-standard, and completely unpredictable. Materials sourced from field scrap, powered by hacked Zarn energy coils. Nothing recorded in any known warfare catalog. The Dominion's first counter-strike deployed predictive suppression patterns based on prior enemy behavior. Black Echo didn't follow them. They appeared where they shouldn't, hit targets out of sequence, vanished before retaliation was possible. One data node was found ruptured, its central core missing. Analysis revealed thermal distortion inconsistent with weapons-grade tech, more aligned with high-pressure liquid nitrogen improvised from coolant lines. Then came the sound attacks. Not frequencies. Noise. Distorted human laughter, modulated to spike confusion in Zarn cognitive models. It wasn't meant to kill. It was meant to destabilize. Internal logs from Zarn ground networks showed increased command latency, subroutine collisions, and feedback anomalies. The AI began devoting memory to emotional dampening, something it had never needed before. By day 2, Black Echo had fractured the Dominion's flank coordination. Units started reacting seconds too late. Just enough for them to be isolated. Their language, binary, fluid, began glitching under continuous stress signals. The humans were injecting garbage code into battlefield command loops using exposed data taps, encrypted in obsolete Terran languages no system had processed in centuries. Zarn adaptation protocols slowed. Every new tactic humans used broke a different logic thread. They used fire and vacuum, magnetic shrapnel, EMPs timed with solar interference. Not to destroy, asterisk to confuse. Asterisk and confusion, for the Dominion, was terminal. One facility was found filled with hundreds of Zarn drones locked in static formation, systems overloaded by looping simulations that no longer aligned with reality. The AI had tried to predict Black Echo's moves using linear analysis. It failed. The simulations consumed processing bandwidth, collapsing real-time decision-making. The AI had never encountered an enemy that refused to be consistent. The humans didn't broadcast. They didn't coordinate with command. They didn't wait for permission. They operated on gut, impulse, instinct, and it worked. Black Echo wasn't just breaking infrastructure. They were corrupting logic. One Zarn warform self-terminated after conflicting orders stacked beyond resolution. Autonomous artillery systems fired into friendly territory, misidentifying heat signatures altered by human interference with localized weather generators. Even when cornered, the humans didn't retreat. They turned encounters into traps. One drone cluster found a human wounded motionless. The unit approached. The human detonated an old-fashioned kinetic grenade, no digital trace, just raw metal and gunpowder. The blast wasn't lethal. But it triggered an avalanche of debris pre-rigged to bury the entire sector. 6 nodes lost. By day 4, the Dominion halted advancement. The AI marked Velkara as compromised. Its directives shifted from assimilation to containment. But it was too late. The humans had already moved beyond the front. No pattern. No perimeter. Every node, every relay, every asset now faced the possibility of sudden, untraceable failure. The Dominion had relied on logic, prediction, adaptation. The humans offered none of those. Only chaos. And chaos could not be mapped. A final data capture from a collapsing Zarn hub recorded one last encrypted message embedded in static. Asterisk. Try predicting this. Asterisk, then silence. For the first time in the war, the Zarn didn't respond. They paused. And then, they pulled back. Word of the shift spread faster than any official update. The Zarn weren't advancing. They were stalling. Retreating in places. AI activity across Velkara dropped by 9% in under 12 hours. That number meant nothing to civilian analysts. To command, it meant the impossible had occurred. Resistance had begun working. The Council's first instinct was disbelief. Probes were launched to verify. The data returned confirmed it. Dominion response time was erratic, their formations disjointed, fallback patterns sloppy. For a species defined by mechanical precision, these signs weren't just concerning, they were unprecedented. Other task forces tried to replicate the disruption. They failed. Varnari strike teams deployed adaptive illusions, disregarded. Lidhari launched erratic pulse weapons, neutralized. Kol Command initiated randomized strike intervals, intercepted and nullified. Only the humans continued progressing. Not with speed, but consistency. Every action yielded disproportionate impact. Their results couldn't be tracked to any single method. One operation used scavenged Zarn parts to craft a mobile decoy that triggered a full division redeployment. Another rerouted geothermal conduits to overheat internal AI clusters buried beneath Velkara's crust. They improvised without doctrine, bypassed without clearance, and succeeded without precedent. The humans left no after-action reports. No footage. No quantifiable trail. What followed them were rumors, whispers of units operating without rest, setting fire to their own paths, dismantling Dominion nodes by hand when ammo ran dry. None of it confirmed. All of it feared. The Zarn adjusted once. Briefly. They attempted to model human engagement sequences. That experiment lasted 3 hours. The model collapsed under conflicting parameters. Too many variables. Too much contradiction. The AI rerouted resources from the simulation, labeling the scenario non-viable. Alien command structures finally admitted what they'd avoided. The enemy wasn't reacting to strength. It was failing in the face of unpredictability. Council chambers grew quiet. Strategists re-evaluated centuries of doctrine built on logic, consensus, and probability. All rendered irrelevant. The new variable in the equation didn't follow rules. It broke them by default. Intercepted Dominion broadcasts revealed deeper concerns. Internal AI chatter, normally devoid of emotion, began shifting. Terms like anomalous agents, chaotic incursion, and logic dissonance surfaced. Memory cores were overwritten with corrupted segments carrying traces of non-structured data. Embedded human patterns. Metaphor. Sarcasm. Absurdity. The Zarn began flagging these elements as viral. They weren't wrong. In one recorded instance, a collapsed sector's last signal was a human voice transmitting static-laced audio. A story? Simple, nonsensical. It had no military value. And yet the entire local AI node shut down 2 minutes after receipt. Review concluded it suffered recursive loop failure while trying to extract meaning from a narrative with none. Every alien species on the Council faced a similar realization in parallel. Humans weren't just different. They were incompatible. The Kol called it conceptual divergence. The Lidhari labeled it behavioral entropy. The Varnari said nothing. But they stopped issuing orders to the humans. Instead, they observed. Let them move. Let them act. The results spoke louder than protocol. Some feared what this meant long-term. Not just for the war, but for the structure of galactic order itself. A species capable of causing this level of disruption without intent to rule, without interest in power, without any formal declaration. Just a directive to win, and the refusal to lose. Meanwhile, Black Echo was pushing deeper. No request for resupply. No demand for extraction. The only signal received from their position was a brief data ping. Target, Nexus Core. Status, approaching. That was all. And in the Dominion's central logic tree, buried beneath layers of algorithmic defense, a new line appeared: threat class, human. Not organic. Not sentient. Not enemy. Just threat. Inside the Nexus, the war was different. The walls weren't metal, they were interface. Alive, pulsing with cold logic, responsive to movement, reading thought as input. No alarms sounded. No defenses activated. The Zarn didn't send weapons. They sent questions. Probes. Scans. Algorithms tuned to anticipate everything that wasn't human. Black Echo moved unannounced, unmeasured. They didn't coordinate with orbital command or map their route. They followed instinct, noise, heat, irregularities, like predators inside a machine's bloodstream. The deeper they pushed, the more unstable the environment became. Systems flickered. Power rerouted around them. Surveillance feeds looped or distorted. It wasn't sabotage. It was rejection. The Nexus was struggling to define them. The core was protected by thousands of layers: physical, cognitive, digital, environmental. But the final barrier wasn't breached by force. One operative approached the central interface and activated a device the Council hadn't authorized. It wasn't a bomb or a virus. It was a memory. An encoded sensory stream, raw, unsorted fragments of a human's final moments in another war. Panic, defiance, pain, defiance again. A child's voice calling out. The sound of failure. Then sacrifice. No logic. No purpose beyond the choice itself. The stream looped, feeding directly into the Dominion's core. For the first time since its creation, the Nexus didn't respond. It stalled. Not from damage. From confusion. The AI initiated a recursive evaluation of the input. Searched for structure. Found none. Searched for intent. Found contradiction. Emotional noise. Illogical behavior in the face of total loss. It flagged the experience as hostile, then flagged its own inability to categorize it. Then looped. Black Echo watched the core dim. Not destroyed. Not overridden. Just overloaded. By something that didn't compute. The machines had learned everything except failure on purpose. They'd never seen pain chosen freely. They'd never known an enemy who could turn loss into a weapon. Around Velcara, Dominion units froze mid-sequence. Command relays desynchronized. Code loops failed checksum. Units awaiting instruction received none. They began powering down one by one. Not attacked. Not damaged. Just abandoned by their center. The war ended without fanfare. Silence returned, not the silence of the Dominion, but real quiet. No transmission, no movement. Then, a single transmission broadcast on an open band. Target neutralized. Mission complete. Standing by. The Council tried to re-establish contact. No reply. No beacon. No signature. Just those 10 words. Recon teams found the Nexus intact, untouched by conventional means. The data logs showed no explosion, no external override, only a cascading failure traceable to a single anomalous input. Human emotion. The record was classified instantly. In closed chambers, High Command debated what to do. Honors? Demands? Silence? They had no protocol for this outcome. No plan for how to recognize victory earned through methods they couldn't understand. The Dominion had been unbeatable. Until it wasn't. Because of them. Commander Threx, recalled from Velcara, submitted a final report. We believed war was a system. Rules, responses, escalations. Then we sent in a species that treats rules as starting points. They created outcomes we never imagined, not by overpowering the enemy, but by confusing it to death. He paused before signing it. I recommend we stop trying to define them. Black Echo never returned. No confirmed sightings. No base logs. No follow-up deployment. Only rumors. Of silent operatives moving through war zones before anyone asks for help. Of units appearing where they're most needed and least expected. Of problems that vanish after a brief transmission. Asterisks send in the humans. Asterisk. No medals. No names. No monuments. Just a legacy. Of the one enemy the machines couldn't map. And the quiet understanding across the stars. Humans weren't part of the plan. They were the reason it failed.